I'm going to just start out with a song, okay? Rise and shine. Coffee's hot. Homemade biscuits, steak and eggs, they hit the spot. In the corral, there's your cayuse. Tack him up, be set to ride, or turn him loose. Today we're riding north to gather mares. They got colts, so we'll be trailing pairs. If you want to join us, don't just snooze. Make a hand, ride that hoss, I'ma turn 'em loose. Trail 'em home to this corral. Wean the colts, we know for sure we're gonna sell. Work till dark, there's no excuse. If the job's too tough, just nod, we'll cut you loose. If you give your all and work all day, prove you got the sand, you need to stay. We save the best for last, so we can choose who'll open that gate and turn 'em loose. Ooh, yeah, ooh. Can't you see it in their eyes, kicking dust up to the skies? Those horses want that gate to slip its noose. So here's your chance to view the grand parade, yeah, as 100 hooves thunder through the gate. Right up to the fence, you paid your dues. It's time to open that gate and turn 'em loose. We've chosen you to run the gate. Oh, turn 'em loose. Give 'em room, they're coming through. Oh, turn 'em loose. That song is nominated right now for the 2021 International Western Music Association Working Cowboy Song of the Year. So I'm just so pleased that it's nominated. It did win the 2020 Academy of Western Artists Western Song of the Year. So I'm really proud of the song. And how that all happened was one day, my late husband, Dave, some of you don't know, I was married for 10.5 years to a wonderful man named Dave Knight. And he passed away a year ago in October from acute myeloid leukemia. But prior to all of that, we had a wonderful time, and it's his fault that I'm here and I'm doing all this stuff because this was all done on an amateur level for most of my life until Dave came along and let me live my dream. And so anyway, one day I had been working hard on my poetry, and one day he was on his way to work and gave me a kiss goodbye, and he said, "You know, "You haven't written a song in a while." And so, as he was going out the door, I looked up at this print that has hung in my home for many, many years, even long before Dave was in my life, and it's a picture, and it's on my CD cover entitled "Turn 'Em Loose," and it's a picture of galloping horses coming out of a corral gate. And it reminds me of my life when I lived on the Circle M Ranch, my family's ranch in Pine Ridge, South Dakota in the 1980s. They raised quarter horses and Percherons, and they had about 200 mares. And of course then there would be 200 babies every year, and lots of stallions and good gelding saddle horses. So we lived the life, and we had cattle also. And so it reminded me of my life on the ranch, and so I went ahead and wrote that song. He came home from work, and I said, "Sit down, here you go." And so that was back in 2014, and I just recorded it a couple years ago. So anyway, that's how that song came to be. And I'm going to take time in this session to do something that I've been really, thinking about. What would I like to share with all of you? And I'd really like to honor Dave. He passed away on October 13th, and much too soon, 71 years old. And he was just such a great guy, and a soldier and veteran, and so I would like to honor him in this showcase. So a lot of you have heard this poem, but it's how I met Dave. It's how we came to become husband and wife, okay? And it's called "My Western Man," and it's found on my Western Wordsmith CD, and that's in the CD sales room if you'd like to check it out. That album won the 2012 Western Music Association Cowboy Poetry CD of the Year, but it also has songs on it too that I've written. So this is called "My Western Man." Now, just a little info real quick. I wrote this for the ladies, and anyone who knew Dave knows why. Dave was 6 foot tall and slim. He had beautiful blue eyes and a handlebar mustache, and he looked like Sam Elliott's younger brother. Right, girls? Yeah, they're nodding. So I wrote this for you, and the other thing is that my last name really is Knight, and that'll come up, so keep that in mind. So here we go, "My Western Man." Yes, ladies, I'm well aware you can't help but stop and stare at his big blue eyes and weathered Western smile. And I know he's the kind of beau gets your heart to thumping so, 'cause he radiates that strong and gentle style. I know you may be wondering how I met this fella anyhow. You're thinking we met on the internet, on a website like eHarmony, where folks can browse a mate for free until they want to take the plunge and chat. Well, sure, there's folks that testify they felt old Cupid's arrow fly as they double-clicked their inbox one fine day, and so they'll find a message there from someone who'll forever share true love, just like the storybooks all say. But I guess I'm just a bit behind the cyber-techno-modern kind. I'm old-fashioned when it comes to love. I preferred to meet a guy face-to-face so I could size him up and check the sand that he's made of. So here's the way I met my man. It wasn't by some clever plan, no dream and scheme to fill the days before. It surely was our destiny, divine appointment for he and me in aisle 4 of our local grocery store. Soup he wanted, that was all. He paused to pick one from the wall. His shopping cart was sort of in my way, so he moved it back so I could pass. He smiled, 'cause he liked my eyes. And girls, he took my breath away. Well, I learned a lesson right then and there. A gal has got to breathe some air if she wants to break the ice and simply talk. And try I did with all my might. I know you can't believe that, right? But I didn't need oxygen to walk. Well, I kicked myself for being shy because he seemed a pleasant kind of guy, but second thought said he was spoken for. Well, certainly he'd have a wife and 13 kids to fill his life, so I'm moseyed with my groceries out the door. Well, I bet that Cupid shook his head, and the Lord himself, he might have said, "What's with that gal? I set this thing up right. He's the one I've set apart to cherish her and love her heart. Did she see his shining armor? He's her knight." Well, 9 days later, that was when our paths in life had crossed again, and the Lord above let out a massive sigh as I boldly spoke, "I remember you from the grocery store. How do you do? Are you married?" "No, neither am I." "Here's my number," I did say. "Let's have coffee one of these days." He called, and now we're happy as can be. Oh, I roped that fella easy like. I took my dailies nice and tight and stuck my brand on him for all to see. So ladies, you go ahead and stare, because a handsome man like him is rare. Now looking is okay, but please don't touch, because he's going home with me, my gift from God and destiny. I just love my Western man so very much. True stories are always the most fun, aren't they? Yes, indeed. Well, Dave was a water well man. He wasn't really a cowboy, although everybody thought he was, because he dressed so handsomely in his Western wear. But he was a water well man, and that was for drilling wells and fixing windmills, etc., changing the pumps and pressure tanks, and I used to go with him and help him. I really liked what he did for a living. On my way to South Dakota one year to go visit the family, I realized I was quite fascinated by the windmills. So I wrote a little song called "The Windmill Sound" on that trip. And I'm going to sing it for you now, but before I do, I want to tell you that when I got home, I asked Dave, I said, "Explain to me how the windmill operates so I can figure out how to write a little poem and insert it in the middle of the song." So this is the windmill sound. Here we go. I hear the wind as it'll spin the windmill. Cattle know it's where they'll go for water. They face the wind and hear the windmill spinning round. There ain't a sound you'll hear around these sand hills, except the wind as it'll spin the windmill round. Ooh, that's just the wind and the windmill sound. I'm told this well was dug by hand by Grandpa years ago. This well is not as deep as some, just 50 feet or so. This windmill now is steel. Back then was oak so strong. It stands here on a ranch and hums a guardian angel song. It spins around with breezes, gale, gust, and curl. The gears will turn the pitman arm and cause the wheel to whirl. With every revolution that the windmill turns around, the sucker rod brings water from a fountain underground. Sometimes it's still upon these hills in summer. No that's when we pray for drought to stay far from us, and beg the wind to spin the windmill round and round. I hear the check valve clicking as it opens and it spills the water to the kettle as the stock tank slowly fills. And then a second click I hear. The sucker rod goes down to fill the leathers full again from a fracture underground. I trust the tail rudder, guided by the slightest breeze, to turn the wheel to face the wind, effortless with ease. Now generations vanished, yet this giant's still around, 'cause Grandpa saw the need to orchestrate the windmill sound. There ain't a sound you'll hear around these sand hills, except the wind as it'll spin that windmill all the way around. Ooh, that's just the wind and the windmill sound. No violin can match the wind and the windmill sound. Thank you so much. That was fun. I love the windmills. We don't have too many up in the mountains, but every now and then we have a few. There's time for about one more. So before Dave got sick, I went to, he encouraged me to live another dream that I had, and that was to learn how to be an auctioneer. So I went ahead and went to auctioneer school in 2019, in the spring of 2019. And unfortunately, doggone COVID showed up not too long after in, 2020, early 2020, so less than a year later. And so I didn't get a chance to become an actual paid auctioneer at a fundraiser for the Friends of the National Rifle Association in Teller County, Colorado. And that wasn't until this past August. And Dave wasn't with me anymore, but I was doing it for his memory, and I'm really excited. So I'm going to go ahead and do that famous Leroy Van Dyke song for you, so as my closing number, okay? And you can sing with me, because you know the words. Now I'm going to speak it a little bit, because I try to make it my own, right, folks? Let's start with a chant. Hey, open the gate and walk 'em in, boys. Start the bidding out of 5. What give me 5, 5? What do you get 5, 5, 5? And now 10, 10. What do you get 10, 10? Anywhere I can bid 5. And what do you get 10, 10? And now 15, 15. I'm bid 10. What do you get 15, 15? What do you get 15? How about 20, 20? What do you get 20? There was a boy from Arkansas who wouldn't listen to his ma when she told him, go to school. He'd sneak away in the afternoon, take a little walk. Pretty soon you'd find him at the local auction bar. He'd stand and listen carefully. Pretty soon he began to see how the auctioneer could talk so rapidly. He said, oh my, it's do or die. Gotta learn that auction cry and make my mark. Be an auctioneer, here's your part. $25, 30, will you give me 30, make it 30, bid it for $30, will you give me $30, hold it at 30. What's the matter? Who bet a $30, who'll bet a $30 bid? Just kidding. I bid 30 now 5, will you make it 35? And I bid 35, will you give me 35? Who bid of that $35 bid? Oh. Now from the start he didn't jest, and all could see he did his best. He practiced chanting calls both day and night. He practiced chanting behind the barn just to whoop it up in an awful storm as he tried to imitate that auctioneer. His pa said, son, we just can't stand to have a mediocre man selling things and using our good name. I'll send you off to auction school. There you'll be nobody's fool, and you can take your place among the best. $35, 40, will you make it 40 bid? 40 bid it up to $40, will you give me $40? Whole bit of $40, whole bit of $40 bid. I bid 40 now 5, will you make it 45? And I bid 45, give me 45. Who bid of that $45 bid? Anybody? Anybody? Come on now. Now from that boy that went to school, there came a man who played it cool. He came back home a full-fledged auctioneer. And people would come from miles around just to hear him make that rhythmic sound, because he filled their hearts with such a happy cheer. His fame spread out from shore to shore. He had all he could do and more. Had to buy a plane just to get around. Now he's the best in all the land. Let's pause and give that boy a hand. He's the best hillbilly auctioneer. $45, 50, will you give me 50? Make it 50 bid it up to $50. Would you give me $50? Whole bit of $50, whole bit of $50 bid. Bid 50 now 5, will you make it 55? And I bid 55, give me 55. Who bid of that $55 bid? I know what you want. You want me to go faster, right? Oh, jeez. Come on, Susie. $45, 50, will you make 50 bid? $45, 50, will you make it 50 bid of 50 bid it up to $50, would you bid it $50, whole bit of $50, whole bit of $50 bid. Bid 50 now 5, will you make it 55, and I bid it 55, will you give me 55, who'll bid of that $55 bid. Oh, I sold that stick horse for a $55